Oh, hey, what's going on? Race 2, Richmond UCI Dirt Cup Europe PM Series. 2 laps, Richmond UCI course for the A's and the B's. 1 lap for the C's and the D's. We're back. 12 total races over the course of September through December. This is going to be fun. This is going to be fast. We have 42 racers. This is the OG 2015 UCI Worlds course. It's the most tactical race course out there. I can't think of anything in Watopia. I can't think of anything in London. Maybe New York can compare, but nothing can really compare to this Richmond course. It's flat, but there's 3 brutal climbs each lap. Let me show you quickly. So here we are. You can see my cursor up here. It's flat, 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 downhill, and then it's 3 uphills. 1, 2, 3. And that's where the race is going to be make or break. That first hill is so tricky. The cobblestones are your marker to go hard. You have to continue over the top through the pack. There's so many little nuances in this race that it's really going to be who can tactically play this race better, not only as an individual, but as a team also. Like I said, we're watching Andrew Gajda right now. It's going to be about 10 minutes until the race really gets going. Everyone's remaining controlled, keeping the ammo, keeping their matches together before it really starts and gets going. I did see a check mark, which means a verified professional rider, who I kind of wanted to check out before. Like I said, the C's and the D's are only doing 1 lap, so I'm going to cover them and their finish. And then the A's and the B's are doing 2. So I should be able to cover everyone's finish while I'm able to overview the whole race. So here we are. I'm trying to find out who the verified rider is, because that usually means it's a professional rider. But I see a lot of BRT. Before the race, we tried to get Team BRT. We tried to get in their Discord chat because there's a lot of team members who are doing a lot of tactics. But we couldn't get it in time. Hopefully next week or the week after. There's a lot of BRT, a lot of cryogen. I see some ODZ. But still, everyone looks a little under control. This Tory is a verified rider who I'm not familiar with. I wonder if I can check him out quickly. Yeah, Timothy Tory is on Vetus Pro Cycling. And he's a U23 rider. And his FTP is close to 5.3. And he can go 6+ for 5 minutes. So, oh wow, he's been in the Super League and everything, so he's definitely one to look out for, this Tory rider. Awesome to see in this Dirt Cup afternoon series. A small little gap. It looks like 2 riders have a 2-second gap, but I think the experience is going to play off in this course. The riders know that it's a long race until these hills. There's not much you can do on the Richmond flat roads. It's so flat. There's so many riders moving so quickly together. It's really not worth it to use your energy. So we're going to see the experience of, Gajda, of Gakes, of all these guys pay off later in the race. You're going to see it really pop off at Libby Hill. So until then, let's just hang out. There are power-ups though. So that's another important thing. There are so many banners. There's 1 sprint, there's a 2nd sprint, and there are 3 more banners after Libby Hill, 23rd Street, and the finish. So you'll see power-ups popping off the entire race. You'll see feathers, drafts, ghosts, and burritos. Those are the 4 that are enabled for this race. It'll just be a flurry of power-ups throughout the whole race, and that's kind of the opposite what we're used to. We're used to a lot of racing with no power-ups, and this is just going to be power-up city. So those are the A's. Let's click back, check out the B's quickly. Here's my man Thomas Ervik. There are 57 B's, which is huge. That's a really big pack of B's. I'm just clicking back to see how many are in this pack. Okay, so there's well over 50 still in this pack together. Tons of cryogen, tons of TFC, the dirt guys. Here's Andy W. Huge powerhouse dirt guy. He's another name to look out for. Here's my man Kieran McKenna. Tons and tons of names, tons of familiar faces. I expect the same sort of strategy on a slightly lower scale. So whereas the A's are probably going to attack more often, the B's won't, but those Libby Hill, 23rd Street, and Governor's Hill are where the races make or break for all these riders. And lastly, let's quickly look at the C's. Oh, okay. So here's Seth Haskell. Here's Kitten Little Bits. He's probably live on Twitch right now. We'll give him a big shout out. Again, lots of cryogen, lots of dirt. Always good to see all these team members riding together for the win. So like I said, let me click back up to the A's. They just went through the sprint banner. Just bear with me for 1 second. Clicking up, clicking up. There's so many riders. Here's Magnus. I think he's possibly one of the founders of ODZ or something. Okay, here's Pat Wetstein. He does all the races. Big fan of Patrick. Okay, so let's talk about strategy a little bit. Libby Hill is tough, and that's the first hill that's going to come. These racers have about 4 to 5 more minutes until that first hill. So that first hill is long. It's longer than it seems because you're going to do a U-turn, and then the gradient starts to slowly increase, and then the KOM start will officially come. However, you really need to save it because the dividends are going to be paid on the cobblestones where it gets steeper. So you have to determine where you're going to use your energy. You have to stay in the pack, but stay in good positioning before the climb really hits, and then the cobblestones, you really got to full send it, white knuckle the handlebars, and just go for it. That's the first hill. I think the pack will be made. You really need to crest all of these hills with a pack in the draft. It's so important to go downhill in the draft because if you lose it, the race could be over at that moment. Let's click up. I see one red dot up ahead. Let's see who this is. Okay, so it's Nick Hurd, Team Cryogen. Super familiar name. Heart rate 162, putting out 360 watts. I mean, no one is going with him. He's doing it solo. If I'm him, I'm just kind of throwing in the towel at this moment. He might be doing something for his team that I don't know about, but I do see another check mark that just popped up. D Coggin. So another rider I'm unfamiliar with. Let me check Zwift Power quickly. And he's not registered on Zwift Power, so this could be a real wild card. A verified pro rider who's not on Zwift Power. So this will be really interesting with no heart rate. So normally I would completely ignore this, but that little check mark makes me add a little more credibility to this rider. So someone let me know who this is, and we'll definitely keep an eye out. In the meantime, we still have Nick Hurd. And the entire pack is behind him about 8 seconds, and he's still cranking out. I saw 7.5, 8 plus. Wes Ooms is there. Where is Tom Gakes? I know he's in this pack somewhere. But I mean, this gap is just increasing. He's holding 5.0. I don't know what the end game is. Whether he's going for the win here or whether he's doing something for his team. But it's fun to see. It's fun to see him just go for it, just send it off the front. He's going to make a right turn, and there's one more sprint section. So it's another opportunity to get a power up, get some sort of aggressive power up. But you can see that pack looming just behind him. It's a little omniscient right there. But we have a good view. His heart rate is 158, so it's come down a little bit, and I can see these red dots in this upper right hand corner just slowly creeping closer and closer, and I think that's going to happen. Just clicking back to the main pack, looking through the names. Daniel Larson, a lot of other names. I'm just looking through the jerseys also. Yeah, I think we went through Balenciaga is a name we see a lot. R3R. Bulge. So we have at least 3 or 4 BRT riders. So I expect something to go on with the BRT. They have a lot of strength in numbers here. But like I said, it's slow. We're building the anticipation. Something's going to come. They still have a long downhill. Here comes the flurry of power-ups. If I know the course, if I've done my research, I want the feather power up on this first Libby Hill. The draft might be a good backup, but I really want to go for that feather power up. Statistically, you're not supposed to have an arrow power up, but I did see it used. We've disabled it completely, but I don't know. We do the best we can. Still about 34 riders in this pack. Nick Hurd is still off the front. Let's see what kind of wattage he's still putting out there. He's still over 4, so he's not giving in. Still at 166, 165. I mean, that's high. I wonder if he has more in the tank or what his goal is. It looks like his FTP is right around 5, so he's under threshold. But this is where it could get risky. So the pack is going downhill. They're going to go so fast. If they do catch him on this downhill, there's a risk that they fly right past him. So he's got to maintain speed and keep the pack away during the downhill, because if he does want to get caught, he wants to get caught on the flat part so he can seamlessly re-enter the main pack. And it looks like here come these red dots, and you can see this mini map. And like I always say, we're always looking at the entire screen, always looking at the mini map, always looking at the riders, always looking at the meterage behind us down here. And here they go. And this was what I was talking about. So here the pack comes, and they're going so fast, and he's really going to have to crank it. Here he goes up to 6, up to 9. And this is where it's going to hurt more than anything, just to get back on this pack. We saw brief red numbers, but he's back. He's secure. They're going downhill. A couple more minutes. I would say the last deep breath for everyone before someone starts to make a move, before a little action. So let's check into the B's before the A's really get heated. Okay, the B's look pretty strung out, but it still looks like everyone's held onto the wheel and the entire pack is still together. I can see a long line in this map right here. Heart rate's 147, 155, 146, so fairly muted right now. Not a huge response. Logan, give him a ride on. Yeah, so I think the B's will really break up on the first hill, and then it'll drop off even more and more on the second and third hills. We'll see what happens with the A's, and I expect the same thing to sort of play out on the B's. Like I said, this course is so tactical. I know it's already from 2015. It's already 2019. 4 years old, but still, I mean, it doesn't get much better than this course. There's so many different dynamics to play out, because even if a pack makes a break after these 3 bumps, the chase pack could be so big, and the Richmond flat roads are so long. It's a long 6 miles of flat. The pack could even catch you. So you really have to think about all of your options, what's worth it, what's going to happen. You have to think about the other riders, what they think they're going to do. So it's a lot of game theory at play. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to do the A's, and then I'll probably jump to the C's, because the C's will be finishing their 1 lap. So I expect the C's to just go all in, balls to the wall this whole lap. It'll be about 24-25 minutes for them, and the A's and the B's will still continue. So I might skip over the B's for this first lap just to catch the C finish. Here they go. You can look at the map up here. They're going to go around a U-turn, and then it's going to start to get slowly more and more incline. It's going to increase slowly. All right. Patrick Wetstein, Nick Hurd, Tom Yakes, Gajda, the 2 professional riders, Tori and Kogan, who's the mystery. Tori's on the front at 4.6, but I don't think it's too high for them. Again, this is race 2 of 12 in the series. The best 8 races will count. Each section is its own individual points. So the AM, the PM, and the nighttime all have separate point categories. So you want your best 8 races within that individual slot. You only have to do 8, so you could still miss the next 2 races and jump in and win the whole thing and get the cup. So here they go. They just did the U-turn. You're going to see the incline slowly get more and more severe. Your goal right now is to be as patient as possible. If no one's attacking, there's no need to attack, because once the cobblestones hits, that's when you're going to need to go all out. Wes Ooms will give him a ride on, let him know we're following him. All right, it's going to be a lot of fun. You can see the start up ahead right there. I can see a little flashing red line in the road, and that means the KOM has officially started. times should be in the 105-ish range for these guys. So again, here's the attacks. They're going to start early, but you really want to stay towards the front, but not in the front, not on the front, because this isn't where it's painful quite yet. So stay hard, not red quite yet. I want to be in the 6s, the 7s. Ooms is in a perfect position. I want to stay in this spot right here. And then you're going to see a slight downhill at these banners right here. Take a little breath, a little micro recovery right here. Cobblestones, this is where you white knuckle and you just go all in. So here they go. Carter is on the front, Swart is on the front, all the feather power-ups. This is what we were talking about, and they're just going as hard as they can, not even looking at the screen. So going, no gaps, quickly through the cobblestones. There's Seldenrick, Swart, Balenciaga, Carter, through the banner in 109. Okay, so it's fast. I thought it would be 105, but it's 109. Still really fast, and you can see there's small gaps. So Gaj is in the perfect spot. This right here, they're going downhill quickly. If you can catch that little recovery, there's another uphill coming, and that's 23rd Street. There's Ooms. Patrick Westeen is looking good. Let me click back. It looks like all these riders are in the draft as long as everyone holds the wheel properly. This is where there's daylight. This is the red zone. You don't want to be 1 or 2 seconds when this 10% downhill comes. So here you can see Kuvlar cranking out 5.0 just to get back on that wheel. And that might be it. That might be the race for these guys. So only 2 seconds could have determined the race. And even these riders, they're a little bit too far back. All right, 22 riders. They're going to make a right turn, and then it's up for about 30 seconds as hard as you can. And it's just a brutal effort because they just went as hard as they can up Libby Hill. And here's your second round of power-ups. Red numbers again. No questioning, no thinking. You're just going as hard as you can to get to that banner and to stay in this pack. Nick Hurd is looking good, surprisingly, after that big effort early on. 600 watts at close to 10.0. Tom Gates perfectly positioned behind his teammate. He's crossing the line, uses power up right before the line so he can get another power up. And that's the thing. You always want to use your power up right before the line because then you can get a new power up. And even more riders have dropped off the back. Let's click back. Tunna has fallen off the pack. Is Pat Westeen there? I think he's going to be good. So down to 21. Pat Westeen doing everything he can to recover, getting down to 0 in the arrow tuck. Perfect tactics by him. Again, there's one more hill. It's going to be number 3, and I don't know if Westeen is going to be able to hang on. So if Seldenrick can do everything he can, or they're just so close to this pack, but I don't have a good feeling about this. There's Nick Hurd again. Now there's 19 riders, and here's Pat Westeen at 6.0 just to get back in that pack before the last hill, Governor's Hill, and that's 1 lap. So it's a lot of little efforts up this 1 lap. I think that might be the race for these 2 riders, and it's these little micro events that cause your entire race to be made or broken. That's why you're always being alert. You put so much trust in the riders in front of you to hold the wheels that if you lose that trust, you lose the race. So it's really disappointing when riders in front of you, they aren't racing properly and they're not giving it, they're not racing to win. So there's 18 riders, I believe, in this front pack. This is the longest uphill in the race. It's just a long, slow grind, and at the top of this is going to be the finish line. So the finish line is going to be really dynamic because you can go early, you can go late for the sprint. There's tons of different options that these riders can make and different choices, and all of them can work. We've seen winning moves starting now. We've seen winning moves at 23rd Street, obviously, and we've seen winning sprints. There's so many different cars that these riders and these teams have to play that tactics really can pay off and pay the dividends in this race. Here's Robertson holding that back wheel. He's looking good. He's using the draft power up, which is great. Give him a ride on 19 riders. I think this is going to be enough to stay away from the chasers, but let's quickly look at the chase pack. It doesn't look like 9 riders is going to be enough to catch 19 in front of them. So if they work together appropriately, I think that 19 pack is going to be the winning pack. But I see some Bs here. Let's quickly check how many Bs are in this front pack. It looks like only 8 Bs are left, but this chase group looks really, really big. So 8 Bs in the front and about 10 Bs in the back. So this B has really been fragmented apart. A lot of little gruppettos throughout the race. This will really be interesting to see. So you can see the front pack ahead in this mini map. 1 spot of Bs, and then the second spot of Bs, and then another third pack of Bs is 20 more seconds back. Looks like, yeah, so this will be interesting if that front pack can stay away from the back pack. And the A's getting mixed up really changes the dynamic of the race because the A's are obviously pushing a lot faster than them. Alright, so like I said, we saw the A's and the B's. Let's see if we can catch the C finish, because the C's are only doing 1 lap. So was that 23rd Street? No, that was Libby Hill. So the C's just crossed Libby Hill with 6 of them. Seth Haskell, so close, didn't quite make that front pack, but this front 6, let's quickly check Zwift Power, check the live stats. Let's make sure everyone is in category, then we can cover it. It looks like Van Cowenberg, Marin are the only disqualifications in the cryogen rider. But other than that, it looks like these other riders, this is the winning group, so this is the front pack, doing everything they can right now to get that recovery, get the deep breaths in, recover as much as they can before the uphill, before the finish. Don't forget, they still have 2 more climbs, I believe. Where exactly on course are they? They are going downhill. Oh, but they just, that was 23rd Street, so they just have Governor's Hill left. It'll be interesting to see what these guys decide to do. You see your early feather power up, but that's way too early from, I think that's bending. Way too early of an arrow power up. This is the final finish, but it's really, really long. This is where I was saying you can make a move early, you can make a move late, you can save it for your sprint. Anything could theoretically work. It's just about gauging the environment and gauging the other riders around you. Here's Marin on the front. No heart rate. I'm not going to call that. Here's Miconia. We know Van Kalberg is going to be disqualified, so it's a little hard to tell. I think Bending might be the only one in category, but if not, I know this rider, Canton Lesage. He's good, so they're just giving it everything they got. Heart rate 186. This is such a long climb after those 3 hills. This is a 10-mile course. 2 laps is going to be 20 miles even. They're so close to the finish, only 0.2 left, but it's just uphill slog constantly. Here's Seth Haskell. Seth is looking good. He is live at twitch.tv/KittenLittleBits, so give him a like. Marin. So I think this Van Kalberg and Bending, they're not in their category correctly. It's gonna be, I think this level rider from STW, will give him a ride and let him know we're watching him. But I think it's gonna be him in the finish. Now I don't want to lose the race, so I'm just gonna click away before he crosses over the finish line. So I want to click, give me a sec, I'm gonna click up to the B's and the A's. Okay, here's this Tory rider, 11.0, 10.0. Maybe he had a dropout, maybe he wasn't quite able to make the pack, but he's doing everything he can to get back in there. Let's see. who is this front pack of Bs? So it looks like this is the front pack of Bs with Erosa, AW, Tepping, Coil, and they luckily got mixed in with A's, who I think guys like Tori and Babbage are pulling this pack, and the Bs who can strategically latch onto this pack, they're gonna make it, and they might be able to stay away from the chase group, who is 18 seconds back, led by McKenna and Ervik. The two dirt riders have taken up the chase, and there's a solid 10 plus riders in this pack, so they might be able to cause a little havoc if they can catch on. So let's see, the gap is 25 seconds. Let me try to remember that while I find the A's. The A's. Okay, so the A's have a 52-second gap on the chasers. Looks like they're about 17 A's. You can see now everyone's heart rate is getting as low as they can, shaking out the legs. You just had 3 VO2 max plus efforts, all out, giving it everything you got. Now it's all about spinning, shaking the legs out. The heart rate's going to be low, but the legs are going to be more painful than your heart rate. So it's going to be easy to get your heart rate down, but it's going to be even harder to flush the lactic acid out of your legs. And that's their goal. So if no one really needs to work to keep the chase pack away because the numbers are so high, I don't think anyone will. I don't think anyone's going to try to make a move. But we'll see. We saw Nick Hurd do it on lap 1. We'll see who will do it on lap 2. If anyone has a useless power-up, you'll see them dumped before these sprint banners, because again, you always have that chance to recycle a power-up to use a new power-up. Alright, so we did one lap. We're on to the second lap of the second race of 12, the Dirt Cup Series. 17 have survived out of 42 riders. Still over 5 BRT riders. This is crazy. Let me count how many BRT riders. 2, 4, 6, 7 BRT riders out of 17. So this is a huge team event. We tried to get in their Discord, but we just didn't have enough time before the race. So next time we're going to be in the BRT Discord, and we're going to be able to hear what they're talking about, what sort of tactics are at play. But I think someone will probably decoy off the front. I have a feeling they're working for Tom Gakes, who has the power and has the sprint to win this over the entire field. So Tom Gakes is probably the favorite. I know Andrew Gajda has a lot of power. I don't know who's going to be the closer here, who BRT is really setting it up for. If they are setting it up for someone, it could just be another survival of the fittest, because Libby Hill's going to be hard. 23rd Street is going to be hard. It's just going to be more and more surviving. I want to see Ooms is at 148. Johansson 156. 140 for Gajda. Let's see what Nick Hurd is at, because we saw him earlier. 130 for Nick Hurd, so that's really low. I have a feeling everyone's fairly recovered. At about 36 minutes race time, that's when the second round of hills will come, and it's just going to be all-out havoc for that. If I'm a non-BRT rider, I don't know if I have to save it for the sprint if I'm going for the win, because I can go early, but there's so many numbers of the BRT that so many of these guys have the option to chase me down. So I'm really thinking that the sprint is going to be where it's at, unless I can sort of string this out as much as I can before then. Here is Gajda. I did this race earlier this morning. It was pretty successful. Fell off on that last hill, but I think this really favors an all-arounder. You know, like I said, a sprinter. If a sprinter can hang on over the hills, obviously it's a sprinter's race, but someone who really has the 1 minute power will excel over a course like this. It's too short to really favor a climber. You just have to stand up and punch over these little hills. I was hoping the Rocket would show up, because I think he's a guy who can really thrive on something like this. I think we saw this in the KISS Super League, but I don't think we saw it in the Zwift Classics over the summer, because the new course I think was really featured. A lot of times Richmond is forgotten because it's been around forever. I think it was one of the first courses, but it's still one of the favorites. It doesn't get old, even though it's only 10 miles. I mean, if you're doing it as a race, it's still so much fun. I think it gets a lot of undue hate because people just ride the Richmond flat roads or the Richmond hilly roads, but all of it together as one, as a race course, is really, really fun. I do like the Yorkshire course. The Yorkshire course just feels absolutely brutal to me. It's just like uphill the whole time, it feels like. It's just deadly. It's just deadly. This is a little more manageable because there are real flat sections. In my opinion, on Yorkshire, there's just no flat sections. It's either uphill, it's either downhill, but there's no spot to recover. Again, there's 17 guys here. The last 10 minutes of this race, this is the second one. The first race we saw, the Sand and Sequoias, it came down to a long sprint. This could come down to a long sprint, and the chase pack is actually closing. It was at 45 seconds, I think, and now it's at, or 48 seconds, and now it's at 35 seconds. So that chase pack is moving quickly. I wonder how many there are in here. Not many. There's only 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 guys in here, but they're hustling. And luckily, these bees have latched on to guys like Tori, who are cranking out 400 watts on these flats. And these bees are just hanging on for a free ride. So the bees who made it over Libby, 23rd Street, and Governor's Hill first, it paid off because, I mean, that's the way the race goes. So we got to give Larson a ride on all these. This Tuga, the Portuguese rider. Uh-oh. It looks like Tori is having some sort of trouble with his power output. Or he's doing some sort of workout and toying with these guys because his heart rate is 133. I have a feeling he's going to crank it up and we're going to see 11 plus watts per kilogram from him quickly. I'm just interested to see because you don't usually see it. The heart rate is not really matching the watts. Okay, so we'll click off that. Back up to the front of the race. You see everything in the Zwift race. You know, you see everything. It looks like a huge attack, a massive attack. Tom Gakes, the entire BRT team has launched a massive attack off the front. Awesome. You see BRT, 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 and everyone has to chase because it's this entire team. So who's it gonna be? So DeCogan is on the front. Wes Ooms, but there's a good 3-second gap. Everyone's going 7.0. The heart rate's up to 164. If these guys can get some daylight, get in the aero tuck. Schultz at 8.4. Heart rates are really climbing. 185 for Dwyer. Let's look at Balenciaga. 162, spinning at 100 RPMs. Even if they just dropped 1 or 2 guys, that was still a hugely successful move. So there's 3 small packs right now. The first 2, it looks like, are coming together, but one of the packs is still 3 seconds off. Dwyer at 188, is he going to be able to close it? Because these other 2 BRT riders are not going to close it. Even Robertson, I saw him at 6.0. He shouldn't do any work because that whole BRT team was just an awesome, massive move. And I think that it actually worked. The guys who are going to need to close this are Balenciaga and who is the other rider? Dwyer. I assume from Cryogen with the Tour de Pier jersey. Still, 4-second gap. They have to close this before the hill starts. And they're just giving it everything they can. Here's Dwyer up to 5.3, 5.5. That was such a good move and at the most opportune time, because who expects a move at the sprint banner right before the downhill? Oh, I'm just majorly impressed by these team tactics. And there's Balenciaga. Here's his move to close it. We saw brief red numbers, But no, it's still so close, just about at 10 meters, but I think he's just gonna get in that draft. Yes, and I think they're good, but I mean, look at these heart rates. Johansson 171, Dwyer 186, and this is going into the hill. Ooh, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt a lot. Let's look at see if we can find Nick Hurd at 166. So that's high for him, because we saw him. Oh, he's launched an attack with Kogan, who is this verified rider with no heart rate and not on Zwift power. So this is the wild card that we talked about earlier, and I think Nick Hurd has sensed that we've talked about him and we know nothing about him. Holding his wheel, Kogan's holding about 6.0, but Nick Hurd at 161 going into Libby Hill is going to be tough. No matter how strong you are, that high of a heart rate into this final stretch of a race, it's going to be brutal. The whole BRT team looks very, very controlled. This is team racing at its finest. I love seeing it. 16 left. I think one possibly fell off. Oh no, there's 18, so we're good. Still 18, still 3, 6, still 7 of the BRT 7 are here. All of them are here, including Gakes, Carter, Davies, Seldenrick, and Schultz, and Bulge. Wow. This is going to be exciting. This is going to be interesting. You can see the KOM start up ahead. It's going to be a little red dotted line across the start line. 3 hills. 3 hills are coming. It's just going to get slightly more and more of an incline, but you really have to save it for that cobblestone section. The cobblestone section is the 10 to 15% incline, where your watts are going to pay off even more proportionally for the incline. Okay, here they go. Just crossing over the KOM start right here at about 38 minutes. They're going over the KOM. You're going to see the watts slowly get up to 5.0 to 6.0 to 7. That positioning is what matters. Here's the BRT team at the front, all 5 of them. I don't see any red numbers yet. It's still long. You have over a minute of this climb. Not quite yet. Patience will pay off, and that's the same as the finish on that Governor's Hill. Patience is going to pay off. A quick attack up front, but right here is where you can get that micro recovery. You're going to see a negative right here, negative 1%, 0%, and then it's back up. So it's so brief, but if you know the course, and here comes the cobblestones, here come the feathers, all out, everything you got, full send. Here they go, up the feathers. It should be red numbers for almost everyone. If there's any daylight between, you're going to see it's exploited at this downhill. They're going to crest it, and they're going to continue over the top. Swart is there. Seldenrick is there. Balenciaga, Robertson, everyone is in contact. Gates is perfectly positioned. It looks like Levang and Johansson are going to be the 2 casualties on Libby Hill on this final lap. There's Gakes. Gakes needs to give it everything he's got to get on that wheel. This is Gakes' race right here. Okay, and Gakes is good. We lost 2. There's still 16 left. Dwyer is set. So there are 15 left. We dropped 2, and I expect the same thing to happen on this 23rd Street. It's just going to be all out, a couple more casualties, nothing major. The entire 7 BRT, I'm going to call them the BRT 7, are still here. Don't forget, if you're going faster than 36 miles an hour and it's greater than 3%, you can pedal at 0 to get that aero tuck. So here they are, negative 3%. If the speed picks up a little bit, you're going to see the really witty, savvy riders going to the aero tuck right here. So right here, a lot of 0.0, a lot of experience showing right here. Robertson at 5.2, whereas other riders are at 0.0. Big difference. And here they go right up the hill again. And here's an aero power up from Nick Hurd, 10.0, reminiscent of the Sagan attack. He's doing the exact same thing. It looks like the aero power up was too early. And this is the risk you have. You have the risk of the pack moving so quickly up there. Carter. Schultz, Gakes. Gakes is in perfect position. He's hiding behind his teammates perfectly. Gakes is there, cresting in 5th position, right on the wheel of his teammates. I think he used that van right before that banner, so he's going to have one more chance for a power-up up his sleeve. I think it's going to be close for Franken. Davies is the last wheel. I think Franken might have lost it. 15, 16, 18, 19 meters. That might be too much. A couple dots up front. Nick Hurd at 171. He's got to be hurting. If these guys can group up together, I don't think Hurd will be a threat. And that's exactly what they're doing. So there's 5 of them together. Selden Rick with the red numbers to try to close that quickly because he knows that they all have to gain speed together. Wes Ooms is going to be alright. Looks like the only one was Franken. 14 riders. Nick Hurd is back in the pack. 7 of them are BRT riders. Such a long finish. It's such a long hill. Is someone going to go early? I don't know if anyone's going to have anything left at this point. Budge's heart rate 180. Davies' heart rate 151. Doing everything they can to get recovered. Here comes the hill. They have about 1 to 2 to 3 minutes until this finish line. An early arrow power up. Early power up. Davies with the early attack. Close to 500 watts. This is a real attack because he's using his power up. He's giving it everything he's got. Carter is not going to chase him down. Who's going to be the one to chase him down? It's going to be Nick Hurd. I think it's going to be Dahan from the Dutch racing team at 560 watts. But I think the pack is still going to stay intact. Alright, but Davies still has a good 8, 9, 10, 12 meters between him. I don't think that's going to be enough. You can see all these numbers are 6.0, high 6s. Nick Hurd, the sole cryogen rider left against 7 BRTs, the draft rider, Ooms. Back to the front. I see Davies. Okay, so it looks like there are now 3 riders. 3 riders have soloed off the front, including Nick Hurd, Davies, and Dahan. And I think this is going to be Dahan, who's just held 500 watts for the longest time. We'll give him a ride on. Here's Nick Hurd, 2nd place. I think he might have a sprint up his sleeve. It's so long. You can see the banner right in front of you. There's a breakaway of 3. Does Davies have anything left? He doesn't have a power-up. He launched early to make this breakaway happen. And there goes Dahan from the front at 14.1. That might be a little high. Let's go to Nick Hurd. Nick Hurd with an arrow power-up at 600 watts. Nick Hurd still going with the arrow power-up. I'm going to call... I know Dahan won, but I see the numbers. I've been around it for a long time. I think Nick Hurd deserves that, and I think Davies definitely deserves that 2nd place. Here's Balenciaga. I think Balenciaga just nipped Budge off the line. Phenomenal finish by all these guys. Let's see if I can get this the B finish. I think Dawson was in the front. Let me see. I don't see Dawson on. Dawson is holding 5.1. He's just about to cross the finish line. So I think he's going to be in 1st place from the Bs. But we'll have to see if his category is intact. So that's Dawson right there. It looks like the big pack of Bs are just coming up this final hill of Governor's Hill with Daniel Larson, Coyle, Erosa, Pat Wetstein, Epping. There's Pat Wetstein. Is he going to be able to hold the wheel? I don't know. There's Daniel Larson. Daniel Larson's the A mixed into there. And here's Erosa, the Portuguese team rider. So it's between Erosa, Coyle, Andy W. these 3 riders are the ones that are on Zwift Power that are really to look out for. So this is the front of the pack. It's Coil, Arosa, and AW. They're all together from the Bs. Andy with the early drafting power up, just holding Coil's wheel. There goes Coil. 5.4. He's still leading him out. I think Arosa's holding on to something. I don't know. He's at 5.6. That finishing batter is so close. If they have anything left, now's the time to use it. Coil is still on the front. He's going for the win off the front. Andy W. I don't know if he's got anything left. His power up is exhausted. And there goes Arosa at 7.0, 7.1. It's not much, but it's enough. I think Arosa's going to take this. I don't know. There's Arosa. It's so close. Is it bust now? I think it's going to be Arosa on the line. And I think Coil got second place. Great finish by the Bees. So that's it for race number 2 of 12 of the Dirt Cup. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I don't think we will be here next week because it's a holiday. So I will see you in potentially 2 weeks. Great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.